As we continue to learn about the user interface in Arrangement View, let's take a closer look at how you can control playback in Ableton. So I've got exercise 1 from chapter 3 open if you want to follow along. And let's start by discussing about how you set the starting point and the problems that you can run into. So first of all, on tracks where the track height is really small, we can only select the clip itself on those tracks. And that gets very difficult when you want to set a starting point in the middle of that area. But all we need to do is move our cursor to a track above or below where there isn't a clip, and we can click in that empty space and we can set our start point that way. Now, to start playback, all I need to do is hit my spacebar and then hit my spacebar again to stop playback. So let's check it out. So I want to point out that we can see the original start point blinking there where my mouse cursor is pointing. And then to the right of that, we see this long black line that indicates where the playback cursor was and where playback stopped. Now there's two things we can do here. If I want to go back and start playing from the original start point, all I need to do is hit the space bar. Now, if I want instead to start playback from where I stopped, all I'll do is hold down the Shift key and press the space bar. Now, a couple of other handy things that you're going to want to remember is that if you want to go to the beginning of the song and start playback there, all you need to do is click your stop button, and that moves your start point to the beginning. Also, you'll notice that I have these locators already in this live set, and I can set a start point by just clicking on one of them and then hitting my space bar to start playback from that point. Now, another way that you can start playback that's really handy at times is just to move your cursor into this area below the ruler, and this is called the permanent scrub area. Now, right now, you'll notice that when I move my cursor down there, we see a magnifying glass. But if I hold my Shift key down, you'll notice that it turns into a speaker icon, and now all I need to do is Shift click, and the playback starts at that point. Now, that behavior is controlled a bit by a preference, so let's take a look. Let's go into Preferences. That would be under the Options menu on a PC, and on a Mac under the Live menu. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to click the Look Feel tab. And what I'm looking for is this permanent scrub area. Right now the button is off, and that's why I had to Shift click. Typically I leave this on because now all I'll need to do is move my cursor there, and you'll notice that it immediately turns into the speaker icon. If I go above that in the ruler, it's the zoom icon, and then below that it immediately turns into the playback or the speaker icon, and I can click and start playback. All right, let's talk a little bit about what happens when you're zoomed in and how the screen moves to keep your playback cursor in view. So if I'm really zoomed in, and I'm hitting my plus key to do that, and let's say my cursor is over here towards the end, I'm going to hit my space bar and let's see what happens. Okay, you'll notice that it actually paged so that it kept the playback cursor in view. Again, that's controlled by a preference. So this time I'm going to use the quick key to go into Preferences, and I'm going to go Command comma because I'm on a Mac. That would be Control comma on a PC. And again, I'm on the Look Feel tab, and I'm looking for this follow behavior. And you'll notice that I have it set to page. I can also set that to scroll. Watch what happens when I do this one. I find that a little bit disconcerting to have the whole screen moving that way. So I'm going to move that back and put that back on page. All right, I'm going to hit my W key to zoom all the way back out so I can see everything. And now I want to talk a little bit about loop playback. So we've got a loop button icon up here in the control bar, but the fastest way that I like to use this is just to make a selection. So let's say I select this clip that's part of verse 2. All I need to do to set up loop playback to play that length would be to use the key command, Command L on a Mac or Control L on a PC. Now, two things just happened. You'll notice that it has set the loop brace to my selection, and it's enabled the loop switch up here in the control bar. So now if I hit playback, it's going to start here at the end, go over to the end, and then loop back. Now, this is a slow tempo, so I'm going to make this much shorter so you can see what happens. So you saw that loop back around. Now, one thing that I like about the way that loop playback works in Ableton is that I can actually set a different start point. But then when it hits the area where we see the loop brace up top here, if the loop switch is on, it's then going to loop that amount. So for example, if I was to click over here because I want to hear how we enter the verse, it would play at that start point, go into this area where the loop brace is set, and then when it gets to the end of the loop brace, it's going to start looping. I can even do that from within inside the loop brace. For example, if I wanted to put it here in the middle and then hit play. All right, and you noticed how I changed the length of the loop brace by moving my cursor on the edge and kind of trimming it longer or shorter, and you can do that from both sides. And if you select the loop brace and use your arrow keys, you can move that back and forth. And when you're ready to turn the loop switch off, you can just click on that, or again, you can use the key command, Command L on a Mac or Control L on a PC, and you're back to working normally. So controlling playback is an important part of feeling in control of a music production app like Ableton. So spend some time working with these techniques so that you can call upon them when needed.